That's camera rolling. That's camera rolling. Okay. In your own time, feel free to get going.
Brilliant. Hello, my name is Panya Banjoko and I'm the founder and keeper of Nottingham Black Archive. And one of the things we do at Nottingham Black Archive is to document the present as much as we can, and part of that is documenting the life stories of notable people, people who have done something exceptional. And so I'm really pleased that you are here today to be interviewed. And yeah, so if we start then with your full name. Tell me your full name. What's your full name?
Michael Forbes.
Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting.
It is.
What's the story behind that?
I don't know. You could say it's my mum in Jamaica, I think. Obviously, elements will be back to empire in many ways. So I don't know why, but it's there.
Okay, I didn't know that. And when and where were you born?
So born Nottingham City Hospital, and yeah, Nottingham City Hospital. So I've been in the city pretty much all my life.
Okay. And what sort of secondary school did you attend?
It's comprehensive, Chilwell Comprehensive. So I was brought up in Towton, and then Chilwell Comprehensive was the main school for about a year, and then I transferred to George Spencer, which was again another comprehensive in Stapleford.
And are there any standout memories from your school days?
I'm sure there's many, but again, you'd have to kind of tell me what you're looking for in terms of specific standout memories.
Did you like school?
I did actually, yeah. So I'm sure it probably come. So I was brought up in a foster home, so school was a escape, and quite a nice escape from some of the madness in the foster home. And yeah, I've always loved the process of learning, and I still do today.
What subjects did you study at school? I
think there's a full range of, like everybody, you do your full range. My strongest subjects was probably, has always been art and geography, creative work, technical drawing, and woodwork. I've always been very good at my hands, so kind of I've done building work and a range of things within my life. At one point I desired to be an architect, so technical drawing I was really good at, so I thought I would be an architect at one point. I'm dyslexic, so through my process of learning, I thought at that time that being dyslexic kind of part excluded me from being an architect, just because understanding it takes many years to be an architect, and the academic process I found obviously at school quite challenging, but it's part of who I am.
Did you hold any positions of responsibility at school?
As a prefect?
Yes.
Which I was very surprised I did actually get offered it, I think because I was quite boisterous, shall we say, at school, so I was always kind of getting myself in situations, but it's actually interesting how I did get offered that responsibility of being a prefect, and then I kind of started acting a bit more responsible.
Oh, okay. And did you take exams after you left school?
Yeah, very much so. I didn't do particularly, I did all right, GCSEs and CSEs at the time, so art and think of subjects. Did a range of them: maths, English, art, technical drawing, and woodwork. And then obviously my strong subjects was art, technical drawing. Yeah, I think maths I did all right. English I did really poor at, as in I'm not quite sure I've actually got a GCSE or a CSE in English at this moment in time. Okay.
What did you think your education was for at that time? Did you think about that? Did you think this could lead to something else, or?
I never thought it was. I think it was just a process of being a child, and then you have a education. Like I said, I was brought up in a foster home, so they was not a poor working class foster home, so education was not high on the agenda for their own children. They had 6 or 7 of their own kids, and then they had a kind of roll in and out, a range of kids coming in as foster parents. So school you just did, education you just did. There was no aspiration or on behalf of, say, the foster parents that we're going to educate these kids to be world leaders. That was not an agenda. You got an apprenticeship or you went into the army.
Yeah. So as a child, did you create things? Because we're here today talking because of your solo exhibition here at the Lakeside. But as a child, were you creating art?
Yeah, I was always drawing. I think one of the things what stood out to me is I was really good and enjoyed colouring books. So some of even as an artist, I started doing a range of line paintings and drawings. And some of them was quite large scale, but it was kind of copying that process of colouring books, the outline. Made stuff in the garden, again, knocked stuff together in wood. Quite enjoyed that process. I did actually have a painting, a sketch in the Evening Post. I did a competition for children when I was 9 years old, and I won £5. I'm sure that's in their archives somewhere.
Oh, interesting, interesting. And did you show your creations to other people?
It was, I think it was just in school, really. So it's again the process of doing art at school. You did homework and then you presented on, say, a Monday. You got homework on a Friday, you presented on Monday. And I always did well. I enjoyed the process. And I quite liked the art teachers because they was very enthusiastic about art per se, to a point where in fact, I don't know his name, Derek Smith, who's the main art teacher, he got annoyed with children if they didn't take their art serious.
I want to talk to you a little bit about social class. Were you aware growing up of being in a particular class?
Not at all. The conversation of class probably only came to me as a kind of through my 20s. I kind of use this term, obviously, working class parents, there was relatively poor working class foster parents, but we didn't use that term as a kid because it was it's just all we knew. Saying that, I did have friends who were around who would kind of probably had more resources, financial resources, and more affluent, but class wasn't necessarily used as a term then.
And was you aware of that? With your friends who were more affluent, was you aware of that and how what that meant for you? Yeah,
very much so. I think some of it was shown probably in terms of what additionality you could do after school or not, as the case may be, or kind of what taking stuff, say sandwiches or snacks to school, where we didn't have any additionality, so we didn't take snacks. But I had a good friend, Vince, who his parents took him to school every day. We had to walk to school, so sometimes I'd go round Vince's and then we'd get a lift up with Vince's parents. So I can see that Vince's parents was, say, more privileged financially. But they were kind of grocers, so there wasn't part of a kind of higher class. It's they were successful grocers. They actually had a shop in Hyson Green. It was their first shop, and that's where they made the money.
What class would you consider yourself to be now?
I kind of stick to this term as classless, really, because I, don't necessarily want to particularly put myself into any particular class, and I don't think I fit into any particular class. I don't have an aspiration to hold on to a title of working class, and I don't particularly have an aspiration to say I aspire to middle class or upper class values. But saying that, I can see all of society in me, and around class and working class values and socialist values and conservative values to less and greater degree.
Okay, thank you. We're running through lots of different things today, and I want to talk to you about your consumption of media. So books feature a lot in your work. Can you tell me what types of books were read in your home?
None, virtually none, I don't think. I think like I say, colouring books, as kids had colouring books which I really enjoyed, and I think I can remember, again, going back to being dyslexic, so I can remember the first book I read from cover to cover, and I was about 16, and it was, I actually can't remember the title, but it was about a boxer. So one of the sports I did from 12 to 16 was boxing, so then I can remember reading about this boxer. The title may come to me at some point before the end of the interview, but that was the first book I read from cover to cover.
Comics? Did you read comics?
Not really, never really been a fan. Kind of read them a bit, and then we had the kind of newspapers in the house. Say the Sun was the main consumption of news in the house. Read stories around that.
And in terms of radio and TV programs, what did you listen to? What did you watch?
Standard children's programs, obviously, at the time, this kind of growing up, it's black and white TV for a significant period, and then colour, but then we've got 3 channels. What would have been watching? A lot of, obviously, American TVs was pumped through the channels, and sometimes kind of documentaries, news. As a child stroke teenager, and clearly as a foster kid, is you didn't necessarily control what was on TV. So it was only when, say, the foster parents was out, that you had to say what was you could watch on TV and choose the channel.
Going back to books, what did books represent to you as a young person?
If I had an answer, I have an answer for that, other than the colouring books was it. Books didn't represent anything, really. In fact, actually, what I probably would say is that if I did see a book, again, being dyslexic, so getting back to being dyslexic, then it would present a challenge in some ways, reading significant chunks of paragraphs, sentences. I didn't understand. In fact, I didn't really understand I was dyslexic until probably 20s, when I had a sense I always knew I wasn't stupid, but I always knew I had that challenge of reading and writing significant paragraphs and grammar. So, like I say, that contributed to me not particularly doing well in English as an exam. But yeah, so the first time it was identified I was dyslexic was when I did my degree at Trent, but I'm kind of 30 then, so I always knew I wasn't stupid, but I knew I had this challenge of reading and writing, so I made the assumption I was dyslexic and got the test when I did my degree at Trent. So then it was confirmed I was dyslexic. I had at the time a reading speed of a 7 or 8 year old, I think, as part of the test, and you go through the whole test about phonic pronunciation as well. So once I had that test, that kind of, it's almost you can relax into knowing, one, you're not stupid, but acknowledge that dyslexic, and then clearly it's a condition, it's a disability in many ways.
Yeah, because I was going to ask that, was it a relief then knowing, that yes, I'm dyslexic, I'm not stupid?
Yeah, it was very much so. And then obviously NTU, I did my degree at NTU in photography, so they had support in place for essays and writing, and as I don't know if we'll come on to it later, so then recently 2020 I graduated at RCA, and again they have a really strong dyslexic support unit there, so that allows you to get the support you need.
Okay, so books were a challenge as a child, as a young person. What do books mean to you now?